Good afternoon. I trust everyone's doing well today. Welcome to our segment about entrepreneurship. I'm pleased to introduce to you Mr. Salim Holder, who is a co-founder of a online marketing venture that is pretty much germane to all of us. And our topic of discussion today is going to be all about entrepreneurship. So before we get started into this little segment, Mr. Holder, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about.
Yes, well, first, let me just say I'm excited to be here today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk and just kind of discuss this very important topic. So, Fourth Ave Market, it's the largest Black-owned online beauty and hair retail platform in the U.S. I started it along with as a co-founder, along with my one of my longtime friends and fraternity brothers. We started his backgrounds in software engineering, and we really got together to start Fourth Ave Market as an opportunity to really change the way retail fundamentally works for the Black community. And when I say change the way it works, I mean that in many cases, as we spend money in this industry, we're not the beneficiaries of the money we spend, other than the products that we receive back. We don't receive profits, as we're not, most of the time, we're not the owners of the businesses, we're not the owners of the distribution network, the retail stores. And as a result, we looked at it and said there's an opportunity to fundamentally shift that and change the way this works. So that's where we looked to start Fourth Ave Market.
Thank you. Thank you. So, what inspired you to leave a successful career in marketing to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed my experience in marketing. I had worked for over a decade, worked with companies like Kimberly Clark. I managed brands like Kotex, Jameson Irish Whiskey, men's grooming brands, denture brands, and honestly, I was getting some great experience. I was able to grow many of those businesses by millions of dollars. But I honestly got to a point where I said, if I could do it for them, I could probably do it for myself. And then in addition to that, I always have felt this kind of lack of satisfaction or fulfillment, if you will, and that the work that I was doing, while I appreciated it and I was happy to help make some of these companies money and put a little cash in my pocket at the same time, I didn't see how I was having a positive impact on the communities that I was a part of or the communities I was in. And as a result of that, I felt at a certain point in time that I could actually change my kind of career trajectory and actually do something where I leverage my experience and do something that can have a positive impact on the community. And so literally January of 2018, I jumped ship. I stepped out on faith, decided I was going to chart my own path. And in doing so, I stumbled on this opportunity to launch Fourth Ave Market.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, what inspired the focus on hair care, and where does the name Fourth Avenue Market come from and represent?
Yeah, so we thought about the opportunity. We kind of stumbled on the opportunity, to be honest. Like what happened was there was a broker, a sales broker I knew, really amazing lady. She had been working many years with just getting products on the shelves in Walmart's, Targets, corner stores, etc. And as I spoke to her after I had left in January 2018, I spoke about this other product opportunity. She was like, honestly, Salim, that's a good thought, but I think you should consider this. And she had started this business a year prior. She had started many businesses. So she's just at a point in her life where she just wanted to retire. But she started this business, which was an online hair and beauty retail platform with products targeting the ethnic and multicultural consumer. And what I saw automatically, and I talked to my partner about it, is like, yo, there's an opportunity here for us to make a little cash. But what started as an opportunity to make a little bit of cash kind of changed pretty quickly to be a much bigger opportunity than just that. So we literally purchased the site from her. And what we bought were the relationships that she had with distributors and manufacturers. And so by buying the site from her, what came along with that was overnight, we became the largest Black owned online beauty and hair retail platform in the US, simply because we had over 7,000 products on the site. And so the thought about just the hair care industry, as I did a little bit of digging to understand a little bit more about how big this category is. And this is where we start to realize this is a $2 billion category. Hair is it's the fastest growing, Black hair care is the fastest growing segment of the entire hair care industry. And so the crazy part though is when we reflected on our experience and we walk into traditional retail stores, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, et cetera, grocery stores, and what you tend to see is a shelf that's a 4-foot section of the shelf called the ethnic set. And so when you think about here, you got this $2 billion category, fastest growing segment in the entire hair care industry, and we're relegated to a little small 4-foot section of the shelf. And at the same time, most of the products that are on that shelf in that section are owned by some of these major big companies. And there's no issue with the big companies, but the problem is that a lot of those products don't work for us. And so when we go to the shelf and we can't find something that actually works for us, but we have people from our community who are creating products that do work for us, but they can't get it on the shelf because these major brands and these major companies make sure they don't get on the shelf, it becomes a problem, not just for those brands, but also for me as a consumer, because I can't find the product that I want. And on the flip side, I go to the stores that are in the community that don't tend to be owned by people from the community. And as a result, as we walk around those stores and we're treated crazy, disrespectful. And it just kind of got to a point where I thought about it. I'm like, here we are spending $2 billion, $2 billion, and we're struggling to figure out if we can go to one store that doesn't have what we want or the other stores that don't want us in the store. And when I thought about that $2 billion, that's 85% of the sales of the ethnic hair care and hair care category is driven by Black consumers, yet we own 7% of the stores. So all of a sudden, Fourth Ave Market, it kind of took this whole different feel. It was like, this isn't just a store for e-commerce and just an opportunity for us to make cash. This was really an opportunity for us to make change in the community, for us to really fundamentally shift the way things are working so that our consumers can get the products they want, our manufacturers can get their products in front of consumers, and that we can actually benefit from the money that's being spent in a retail store because we can be the owners of it and not just participants. And it brought me back to just thinking about it wasn't always like this. And there was Black Wall Street, there was Little Haiti in North Carolina, there was also Fourth Avenue District in Birmingham, Alabama. 60% of Black owned business was done right in that little district. In fact, in that district, in the center of that district, is where you've seen this the iconic civil rights footage of kids getting laid out with fire hoses or attacked with dogs, police dogs. That happened in the center of Fourth Ave District. And for us, we saw as an opportunity to pay homage back to an era and a time and a district where the values of being able to take care of our community, where that dollar would go around the community, were values that we needed to live by, and we thought were necessary to bring back to life in a new way and fundamentally shift the way that our economy works, and not just retail, but by creating this ecosystem that can connect the dots and allow us to get more value out of the money that's being spent. So that was where we kind of shifted the focus from just, hey, we got a way we can make a little cash, to, wow, this is Fourth Ave District. This is another Black Wall Street that we can recreate over time. So that's really what was the kind of impetus for where we are now.
That's definitely an interesting segue. So I have a quick question for you, and it could be data driven or it could be just personal opinion. But when we look at all the different cultures, throughout, let's just say this country, when we talk about small businesses,
Mhm.
how many times should that dollar go around that community before it leaves the community?
Yeah, I mean I think that's the question, right? It's like, I know there was at one time where it would go around like 30 times in our community before it would leave. Now I think I've seen statistics, whether it's accurate or not, but just the idea of it was what, 6 hours or something like that, that it stays in our community. So, again, I don't know how accurate that is, but the point is that I know the dollar is going around our community less today for a number of different reasons than it was at other times. And I believe that it's important, especially now when we think about all the issues that have come to national attention this summer, issues that we've been experiencing for many years and has been top of mind for us. But those that have come to national attention, I believe a part of some of those solutions has to do with us having more economic control, us being able to have more financial control, where we can say, okay, well, our money won't be spent here anymore. We've seen through history how that has absolutely changed things, from the Montgomery bus boycott all the way through, things that happened in recently the NBA or to other brands. When we say we're not spending money, things change. So we realize that money drives things. So we need to be able to be in better control of the money that goes around our community. So that's really the step that we're trying to take.
So now it's funny you should say that because clearly we're of the same mindset. So if you can, Fourth Avenue Market is not just about hair care. Explain the intersection between your mission, entrepreneurship, and social justice.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that because, as I was mentioning, the premise behind it was how do we make retail work better so we can get products in front of consumers, but then also that means that there's people who are making products. There are quite a few Black men and women that have recently, over the past 5 years, there's been an explosion of people that have been making their own products, and a lot of this is because we can't find what we want on the store shelves. So the challenge then becomes, as they try to struggle to get 1,000 people to their website a month, et cetera, to try to drive sales. Well, we get 50 to 70,000 people on a month to our website. We can easily be able to create an opportunity to get more exposure for these brands by giving them a platform so they don't have to struggle as hard to do it. And so the way I see it, again, it's how do we build up our entrepreneurs? How do we build up the entrepreneurs from our community? How do we work together and partner together in our community to help build up our community? Because this is, again, this is how the dollar goes around. And as I was just mentioning, as we think about that dollar going around, putting us in a position of economic empowerment and having a much stronger economic and financial foundation as a community will allow us to have a lot more influence around the things that happen in our community. Just the idea that 85% of the sales of ethnic hair care products, Black hair care products, but we own 7% of the stores. And we think about it, how often that we open stores and then we're undercut because we got to go to one place for the supplier, and maybe they're not doing business in the best way or the most ethical way, but we don't own it. We don't have, so what can we do? Well, what we can do is not just sit there. We can find a way to mobilize ourselves. We have the resources, and we can create our own and start to take back versus sit there as just waiting for something else to happen. So that's really the push behind our mission.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell me this, what advice can you offer for someone considering shifting from a corporate role to entrepreneurship? And how does economic reward or freedom determine one to choose this walk in life?
Obviously I could just speak for me, and I think from that, if there's anything that's relevant from that for others, that fits their life, they could take that as it is. But for me, I was always compelled by something that was bigger than money. To me, I felt like money would come, but I was always motivated by being able to actually have an impact and be able to figure out what my gift is and to be able to live in with that gift and live in that passion. And I find that too often as we work in these corporate environments, we kind of forget the power that's inside, as we've had always somebody that's always above us telling us you're not good enough. Do that over. You're not ready for the next thing. We start to internalize that at times. And I do believe that fundamentally holds us back. I had a conversation with a friend a couple months ago, and we talked about, dimming our own light, and how sometimes in certain environments we'll kind of dim our light because we don't want to shine too much, because then it's now we become threatening to other people. And in certain
Yes.
corporate environments or certain environments, we have to dim our own light so we're not threatening, especially as Black men, especially as Black women. We tend to have to, like, let's not let me dim my own light so I don't overshine you, because I don't want the negative that's going to come from me overshining you. But doing that for so long, you dim your light and then you start to forget how bright your light actually can be. And I think for me, when I stepped out on faith, I wasn't in the best mental space at the time, because I was, going through all the stuff that I had gone through in the corporate world. I just made a decision. I wasn't dealing with that anymore. I was looking for something different. And I also knew that I could bet on myself, that I could believe in me, that I knew that I've known myself for 39 years now. I've known myself. I've been the only one that walks in every single day, every single second in my shoes. So I know the times where I done amazing things. I know times when I didn't do amazing things, times when I could have done something amazing, but I just chose not to do that. But I know other people might perceive that in their own way. But the reality is that it's up to us to walk into our own and not to let other people's perception, and those who might have known us for a year, a month, 5 years, how can what they tell us about ourselves mean more to us than what we've known about ourselves for our entire life? And so what I would say to anybody who's kind of on the fence is that believe in yourself, take the right steps necessary to make sure. I mean, you obviously financially have to be in some certain position that you can financially step out, but maybe you don't have all the savings and you can step out and find other ways to make money. And it doesn't. I think we find that we have to rely on this corporate job because it's been a crutch, and it's like easy, and we get complacent with that. Jumping out there, it's hard work to go out there and hustle and find your money. But I kind of felt like when I stepped out, I was stepping out in faith. And anybody who lives in faith, God has found a way, and God has continued to find a way for me. As I stepped out, it has absolutely been amazing. And the times where I'm not sure, and that's when God steps up. He's like, "No, I got you. Keep going." So I would say the same to anybody who's on the fence that, you know, we only have one life to live, and we can't live our whole life hoping and thinking that we could have been doing something else. I knew I couldn't live like that, so I was like, I'll take the swing, and if it don't work, then I go back and get a job. you know. So
Gotcha. I got you. So I'm just going to let you know, you said something that triggered a little, a little inner reflection. When you're talking about dimming your light, that's
mm,
a sermon within itself, right there.
mm,
That's a sermon
mm,
within itself.
mm,
And when we realize our purpose, we are duty bound to walk in that purpose. And
yes,
that's what, that's how I see Fourth Market,
yeah,
because I see
that's
it
it.
bigger than, just hair care products. I'm
Yep.
really seeing it making an impact. So with that being the case, kind sir, how can we, we're reaching the masses now. How can we do a better job with supporting Black owned businesses?
I think it comes in a couple ways. I think number one is obviously, just promoting the businesses, talking about the businesses. But I also think that we have to fundamentally shift the way people think about Black owned businesses and the way we talk about Black owned businesses. Because honestly, I've heard many people, even our own people on Facebook, the comments, or, people I've spoken to, customer service, and they call and they have an issue or a comment. Um, I've heard many people even say, well, I've spent money at a Black owned business before, and I don't know if I should spend money with you now. Or saying that it's almost like to say that a Black owned business is a franchise, right? And it's not. Black owned businesses is just a term for people who are Black that happen to own businesses. We don't sit and go through training together and launch, this is how we're going to run business together. I might not know many other people who are Black that own businesses. The point is that I'm making is we are independent businesses. And so, as an independent business, sure, for the masses, what I do may reflect on other people who just look and generally think about Black people as business owners. But us here that are probably more sophisticated in our thinking would know that me as an individual, this is my business, and somebody else's business, whether their customer service is good, prices are high, or whatever, that doesn't have an impact on other business. And I think we need to have that perception, or at least be able to help communicate that necessity to other people to change their perception about Black owned business, that they're individual businesses and your experience with one doesn't match or mean that's going to be your experience with the other. And I've thought about this many times. We've had conversations before as we think about even how we go to McDonald's in Scarsdale and have a horrible experience, but that doesn't stop us when we're in Vermont and we go to McDonald's there, right? Because we realize even the same franchise, they're completely different. But yet, with Black owned businesses, we tend to say, well, I can't. So I think there's just a shift in mindset that needs to happen. And I think that it's important for us that are in influential positions to educate each other and to help overcome some of that has been subconsciously placed in our heads over time. And it's important, I think, that we unlearn some of those things. So I think, of course, support, promote, etc. um, Patronize. If we are in organizations, I think we have to make sure we make it a habit, or drive the habit or the behavior of supporting some of those Black owned businesses that provide the services that we can easily get from a Black owned business versus somebody else. um, so I would say that's really where the help can come.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. I must say this: I've only known you a few short years, but when I think of a motto of a school located in Virginia, "Education for Life," sound familiar, right?
Hey,
Uh,
NYC, baby.
it's that Hampton experience. It
That's
has to
it.
be.
That's it. They
Man,
train
thank you
us
for your
well.
time. Exactly, exactly. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to a future collaboration and continuing to move this whole movement forward. Take
Absolutely. Well, I
care and continue
appreciate
to
it.
be blessed.
You too.
All right.